Happy New Year, everybody! With it being a new year, I decided if I'm going to keep talking about Digimon on here, I need new things to say, so I'm finally doing it. I'm finally watching Ghost Game! I am 13 episodes in right now and just having a blast, but especially with how episode 13 went, it felt like the right time to come in here and talk about a few things. First up, general vibes of the show. I love that this series is saying, I know we focus a lot on the Digi, but how about we focus a little more on the Mon and make it a little spookier? And their means of doing this is primarily through saying, hey, what if Digimon were essentially like technological urban legends come to life to attack people in ways that would be legitimately terrifying in real life? The most terrifying of this so far probably being when there's a Pumpmon going around putting pumpkins on people's heads and then carving the pumpkins while they're on people's heads. That would be horrifying. And of course it's all done with like a kid-friendly Scooby-Doo-esque kind of tone, so it's not actually terrifying to watch. But you could imagine these situations in real life being too damn scary. Episode 9 introduces us to Bokomon, who delivers what's bound to be a key fact for this entire series. And that's, for Digimon to materialize in the human world, they need to show strong emotions. It is emotions that make you more human, make you more real in this world. And as we're seeing every time we see one of the partner Digimon digivolve, it's because their emotions are syncing up with the emotions of their partner. Which makes Gammamon incredibly interesting for the fact that the visual they're showing us with the Digivice is they're completely falling out of sync emotionally, presumably meaning Gammamon is the first time we've seen a Dark Digivolution that isn't from the human partner in the relationship suffering from horrible emotions. It's from the Digimon side of it completely lacking them. It's very interesting in how it's playing with emotions in a way that's most reminiscent to the first season, but with a kind of setup of these characters most similar to Tamers. Like, let's be real, Gammamon is a baby in the exact same way Gilmon is, just much smaller. But yeah, this is me, 13 episodes in, about a fifth of the way through. And I'm really curious to see where the rest of this is going. I'm officially over the halfway point in my first watch of Ghost Game. And potentially more excitingly, I have passed the point where all the partner Digimon have reached Ultimate. But before I talk about the super evolutions into Ultimate, I gotta talk about a couple other things, like the fact that Ghost Game is continuing the trend that Digimon believes humans will always want to hook up with vampires. Myotismon can always get some. It's not clear whatsoever in this picture if you haven't seen the series, so just so you know, this guy right here is Myotismon, and he could get some. And you know what? I don't think I ever expected to see Betsumon in an anime. It's unnerving, and made so much worse by the fact that Betsumon's episode is one of like existential horror of being replaced and losing your identity and not knowing who you are. There's a lot of things that make this episode hard to watch, especially that it's mostly happening to Gammamon, who is just a baby, and I can't handle bad things happening to that. But back to the super evolution to reach Ultimate, because I talked before about how all the champion levels seem to be about syncing up emotions between the human and Digimon partners. And then these shift that just a little bit. Now I don't know quite how to word this. It might require a rewatch or, well, finishing the series to see exactly where all this goes. But it really feels like the super evolution comes out of a moment of intense determination or emotions reaching the point that they become an inspiration to the Digimon. It's not enough to say that the two are linked. Now it's about some kind of outburst that's enough for the Digimon to go, you know what, yes, I am going to push harder like you. And it's worth noting that it's been brought up a few times throughout the series, the connection between emotions and humanity. And when Angoramon sees an old friend, Digitamamon, the idea is asked, is Angoramon even a Digimon anymore, or is he becoming a human? Seemingly because he is more emotional? I also got tossed out, speaking of Angoramon, he is my favorite of this season's partner Digimon for sure. And it might come down to the fact that I just love the bunnies. Come on, just like Terriermon. I want a Terriermon and an Angoramon. I have hit another major milestone in Ghost Game. I am so close to the end, but I gotta talk about this now. Because this is a newer series, I feel the need to say, spoilers coming up till episode 56. I just met Siriusmon, and I was getting really curious if this series was even gonna let them get to Mega, because it felt like there was just so little left. But we got it! At least 1 out of 3 so far. Now, because last year I was making a whole series around different series of Digimon and what it represented when they reached Mega, obviously, this is a big moment. I gotta talk about it, though I am gonna leave a little room here. I have not fully finished the series, and I haven't seen the other 2 if they're gonna become Mega. So there might be some wiggle room on how right I'm gonna be in this TikTok. But from how this was presented, what I made out of all of this, it kind of feels like it's flipping the script on how Digimon usually works in a really interesting way. But to talk about this, it's going to be best to once again go through what every evolution has meant so far. Because going from rookie to champion seemed to be the Digimon syncing up emotionally with humans. Then going champion to ultimate was the Digimon getting great inspiration from powerful emotions from humans. Now what Mega appears to be is growth that comes specifically from having relationships with humans. Not necessarily power from one individual human, but the fact that they have connected with humanity and they have grown into something that they could only become because of their connections with humans. This is so interesting for a lot of reasons, but one big one is it connects to something I've already been thinking about a lot in terms of this series, and that's how much the partner Digimon have their own lives. So much more so than any other season, outside of like the odd single partner Digimon, like Gammamon in the first season. We have Angoramon helping Digimon get used to the human world and having meetings with the other Digimon to help them out. We have Jellymon, who's a little hustler, constantly coming up with side hustles to make money and just causing a lot of shit. And sure, Gammamon's just a baby. He is like the embodiment of how the Digimon partners usually go. But even then, even with him, who doesn't have a lot going on, we have whatever's happening with Gallus Gammamon, whatever his past is before coming to the human world. It's also worth noting how often the monster of the week Digimon are there causing problems because of not understanding how the human world works, not connecting to humanity in the same way the partners are. This even kind of fits in with the fact that it looks like at this point, there's not a lot of time left. We're probably not going to get the same, like, final Digi-Destined we usually get around the halfway point. Instead, we just got Espimon, who I absolutely love, but the fact that he is a Digimon on his own, being this 4th member, says a lot in regards to this. Also, I gotta toss this out here. There's only 11 episodes left to go. Regardless of how these last episodes go, I'm gonna say I was right that this is gonna remain a pretty much completely episodic kind of series the whole way through. And honestly, I'm thrilled about that. I told myself I wasn't going to binge Ghost Game. I would watch at most a couple episodes at a time. Really take my time with it. Savor it. But I finished it. It's done. I've watched it all too quickly. So now that I'm done, what this video right here is going to be is kind of like a more vague overview review kind of thing. And then as time goes on, I will have more videos getting into a lot of specifics because this show does a lot of really cool things. And also just to say it, this poster is absolutely adorable. This show combined so many things I love that I'm pretty sure it was made specifically for me. They were talking about me in the writer's room as they were coming up with it. This is Digimon as a monster of the week, questioning what it means to be a monster. If you go into this expecting more of the usual structure of a Digimon series, you will be sorely disappointed because this is almost entirely episodic. Really, it's only in the final 3 episodes where they actually go to the digital world where it goes into a much more serialized kind of form. But even then, the 3rd to last episode is still a monster of the week, just in the digital world instead of the human world. I love that even at the end, there's not an easy answer. It's not just destroy the bad Digimon and everything's solved. It's fight the bad Digimon, sure, but we have to be able to live together, and that's not something that's going to be able to just automatically change from one fight. It's something that's going to be a slow process. It's all about finding this bridge between emotions and pure logic. about how there is more strength in coming together than looking out only for yourself. It hits on so many of the same kinds of things from past seasons, but in such different ways, especially because I've mentioned this in another video, but it really feels like they're flipping who is the main focus in this. It is not as much about the children here. It is more about how the Digimon are, well, evolving and being able to change because of their connections to humans. The series was such a refreshing take on the franchise. It was so much fun. And, huge bonus, it gave us 2 fantastic Halloween episodes that will be great to return to every October. But yeah, like I said, I want to keep this a little more vague, a little bit more of an overview. I don't know where I'm going to start with this, though, because there is so much that could be said about this series. You know what? Let's talk about the ending to Ghost Game. The final episode is really split into 2 halves. The first half being the final climactic fight with Gammamon, currently as Ryudamon, and the second half being talking to Quantumon. The fight itself and the reasoning behind the fight is about equal with every other season in Digimon. There's a final bad guy we have to take out. If we don't take him out, 2 worlds will be destroyed. But also, like every season, how they take out this bad guy is going to be incredibly important to what the entire story is saying. For example, in Adventure, they're taking on Apocalypse, who is this being of purely negative emotions, and how they beat him is shoving him into essentially a cage of their positive emotions through their Digivices. The very next season is so focused on, with friendship, with people around you, you can hold back the evil that can never fully be taken out. You just have a million Digidestined showing up to, for now, take out Malomyotismon. In this season, Gammamon is a representation of the most monstrous instincts inside of any Digimon, especially as they lack emotion. And so, like nearly every Digimon they fight across this entire season, it's not actually about destroying him or even fully trying to. It's about him becoming part of Gammamon again. Even the way so much of this fight goes is all of the evolutions of Gammamon all fighting together as one body, being able to unite every part of himself to take on this darker part until they could all come together. But then we move on to Quantumon, who delivers the exposition on essentially why this season ever happened. Essentially, Quantumon did what Doctor Strange did near the end of Infinity War, looking at so many possibilities of how the future could go, and nearly every single one of them had both the human world and digital worlds being destroyed. And a huge cause of this was Digimon and humans being incompatible because Digimon lacked emotion. But, as we see through this entire series, they could gain emotion through time with humans. Quantumon was pushed to connecting to the human world because of Gammamon, and specifically his dark corruption that was taking over the digital world, also known as the Gallus Realm Burst, because they needed it to use the RGB letters. And all of this was brought on because Gammamon is actually an alien whose world was devoured by the Endbringer. The Endbringer is a huge threat. It's coming. It's going to destroy the human world too. But we got 2,000 years, so it's not a huge rush. This is like 5 minutes of straight exposition, and I'll be honest, a lot of it, the details don't actually matter. What matters is the effect it brings after this. All of this isn't to say, hey, there's so much more story to tell, look at all this stuff still going on. It's to say, I know it seems like everything's done. We beat the final bad guy, but there's always another threat coming. Now, it's a slow threat. It is a threat these kids themselves will never see. But it's important to be making the world a better place in order to be prepared for it. Now, the reason we got a lot of spooky stuff with all of Ghost Game is because Quantumon went too far too fast, tossing all the Digimon on without any explanation or any easing them in. So we'll fix that. We'll create a third world that has both Digimon and humans, and in there, we will start to get the Digimon acclimated to emotions so this can work. This all feels so perfectly in line with everything else this series has been. It's not about, hey, just destroy this one guy and everything will be good. Just this one threat and everything's fine. No, it's about this slow change of humans and Digimon being able to come together. We see this in how so many of the episodic monsters eventually become friends with the core group and are helping other humans and finding ways to live in the human world. Hell, this ending is essentially the same as Ty's ending in the epilogue of Digimon Adventure 02, where he is a diplomat between worlds. Except, in that case, he's like at the final step of it, as we see in the epilogue, But these kids are just gonna start their journey. Let's talk a little bit about Ryudamon from Ghost Game, because he is the perfect example of what this series is and what it's saying. In episode 39, this guy above me, though smaller, shows up at the beginning of the episode. This is Gyukimon, but he keeps saying, no, I'm not that, I am Ryudamon. The whole thing with Gyukimon is they are known to be these horrible monsters, even in the digital world, because if they beat you in a fight, they bite you and infect you, turning you into one of them, is essentially how they reproduce. But for so much of the episode, this Gyukimon is like, no, that's not me, I'm Ryudamon, you have to trust me, I'm Ryudamon, I don't want this, please, hero, main character up here if you haven't watched the show, please help me, I want to show everybody I'm Ryudamon, try to change me back to Ryudamon. Long story short, where the episode goes is Hiro is able to connect to that Gyukimon with his Digivice, and because of that he could bring out Ryudamon's spirit and turn him back into this smaller, cuter form. And a few episodes later, he's helping everyone out because his friends are in trouble, so he Digivolves into Ginryumon here so that he could save them. Basically, we're looking at what appears to be a monster who is actually able to be seen as this sweet and innocent creature thanks to interacting with humans, and evolve instead into something that could not only live alongside them, but help to fight the bad monsters. This entire series is about humans being able to connect with these monsters, to teach them about emotions in order to become something that can coexist alongside of the rest of society instead of just being these monstrous figures out for only their own gain, which might sound familiar considering who the final villain is in this series. Gammamon having so many champions is one of the many ways Ghost Game makes its point. It's so sweet in its simplicity. We have a rookie Digimon that is colored primarily white, and then give him 3 main champion levels that are red, green, and blue, and then another one that's completely black. Humans are an array of emotions. They are not just one thing ever, really. And then we have Gammamon here making this point by having all of these different forms. And in the end, even the form that's supposedly evil is one he has to fully contain inside of himself. He has to be one with, because this is all him. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad or anything. All of it is him. So yay for playing with what's kind of basic color stuff. There's this fantastic little touch in Ghost Game's opening where whenever we get a new Digivolution, we end up soon after, I think maybe the next episode in every case, seeing that new Digivolution in the title screen. But with Digivolution in mind, let's talk about one of my favorite topics after I finished a Digimon series, and that's what it represents in this series to become Mega. One of the core themes in Ghost Game is this idea that connections to humans, to humanity, could push Digimon away from these things that come off so monstrous and make them something stronger, something better, something that could work alongside the humans. With this in mind, all the Mega Digivolutions in this series are not about the Digidestined doing something amazing like it usually is. This is about the Digimon connecting to humanity in such a way that they want to be here and helping everything. With Gammamon, this is about friendship, all the relationships with people that he's made. With Angoramon, it's about art, being able to appreciate all the things humans make, being able to love that creativity. And I'll be honest, I fully expected Jellymon's to be about money or capitalism, that she's like, oh yeah, I'm so excited for money, we don't have money in the digital world or something. But no, hers is actually about fun, and she finds all her businesses as well as just being a complete pest to Kirishiro to be super fun. And of course, the other two also have these deep connections between their partners and what caused them to digivolve, just like Jellymon. Angoramon was specifically drawn to Ruli because of the way she plays piano, because he loved her art. Gammamon, from the moment we meet him, is connected to Hiro through this firm relationship, in the fact that they are told they are brothers. Yes, brotherhood is different than friendships, but it's these core relationships connecting him to other people. And Gammamon being the one who gets strength from his relationships with people, also being the one with 3 champions, is a lot of fun to look at. When it's just Gammamon and Hiro, he becomes a champion level that is strong in the fire element. But as they come to know the others, he gets two other champions. One that is about wind, same with all of Angoramon's evolutions, and one that's about electricity, the same as all of Jellymon's evolutions. And while I don't think this is Gammamon specifically drawing power from Angoramon and Jellymon or their partners, I do think it is a purposeful choice being done for a reason to push this idea of Gammamon evolving based off relationships with people. Anyway, those are the megas from Ghost Game and a little bonus talk on the champion levels for Gammamon.